Hi, this is Abby, and this is an introduction video on a series of Mercury through the signs. So, Mercury in the birth chart represents how we learn, how we communicate, how we intellectualize things, and it covers a wide variety, therefore, of subjects. It covers how we speak, how we communicate in any way, via text, email, phone. It represents too how our style of writing, our language, how we use language. It represents how we use logic, because Mercury is the planet of objective thinking and logic. So it represents how we actually do that in our own minds, because everyone thinks differently. We all know everyone learns differently, but everyone communicates differently, writes differently, and most importantly, takes in information and processes it in their own way. So it's how you process all of the information coming at you. And it also represents how you view the world around you, like your surrounding environment and your curiosity. So what things you're curious about within your world. The other thing I want to cover during this series is Mercury retrograde, because it's kind of a buzzword in astrology. Even people who aren't that into astrology, who only read their horoscope, they've heard of Mercury retrograde. So I'm going to explain what that means. So the planets, so far we haven't covered any yet, because the sun and the moon are always in direct motion. But the planets, Mercury and beyond, so basically everything like Mercury, Venus, Mars, etc., everything in the sky from our earthly standpoint can seem to go forward, stand still, and then go backward. And the only reason that it appears to be doing that, because nothing actually moves backwards in our solar system. Everything is moving on its own orbit around the sun. It appears from our earthly standpoint to do that because we're all moving at different orbits. And when a planet goes retrograde, it starts to express itself differently. So Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year, and it's very, I want to say, notorious because when that happens, there's communication and technological breakdowns all throughout the world. So it's about a 3-week time. Some are a little bit longer, but it's about a 3-week time when just things happen, like emails get lost, communications are awry, you say things and people interpret them differently. There's just breakdowns in all sorts of things, like travel, because Mercury rules short trips, traveling. So buses, there's problems with bus schedules, schedules in general go awry because Mercury represents organization as well. So it's just a time when things are chaotic, things just go crazy. And that's why it's so notorious, because people are always like, oh, Mercury must be retrograde when weird stuff happens. It's kind of like people saying, oh, there must be a full moon coming, because that's when people start acting loony. So Mercury is more of just interruptions in schedules and, unexpected problems with communication. So about 20% of the population is born with Mercury retrograde in their natal chart, because they were born at one of those three-week periods during the year when Mercury went retrograde. So when you have Mercury retrograde in your natal chart, it basically means that you think in a totally different way than the people around you. For example, someone who has Mercury direct, so regular Mercury or whatever, in their chart might read a book, front to back. But someone with Mercury in retrograde might skip around, or they might be the type to read a magazine backwards to front. Some people do this. They have to learn at their own style, and they have to discover what that style is. So in my personal studying, I kind of look at it like this. This is just my point of view, so You can ignore it if you like, but if somebody has Mercury in retrograde, I look at that. If you look at the luminaries, the sun, the moon, and then there's Mercury, and then Venus, and then Mars, etc. So the moon and Mercury I kind of look at together, and when Mercury is retrograde, I kind of look at it as, where's Mercury here? Going backwards towards the moon. And it's true, like Mercury retrograde is way more instinctual than the logic of Mercury direct. So someone with Mercury retrograde, they have a difficult time learning, or they might have insecurities about the way they learn, the way they communicate. It's kind of like this. When you have a child that learns one language when they're little, they speak at, the normal age for speaking. When you have a child that is in a bilingual home, they take a little bit extra time. They don't speak for a little while longer than the, monolingual child or whatever. But they end up speaking in two languages at once. So for someone with Mercury retrograde, they take a longer time, and this is throughout their life, to organize their thoughts and to wrap their head around something. But when they do come out with like speaking or writing or however they're communicating, it is like a way more full, like genuine and thought out interpretation of whatever it is they're trying to say, because they don't want to say anything lightly. They don't want to communicate in a way that seems superficial or not genuine. They want to actually like communicate their full self through whatever they are, whatever medium they're communicating with, and whatever subject. So they'll take longer. They might have doubts. A lot of people with Mercury retrograde will review and like rethink things before they come out with them. But when they do come out with them, it's very unique. It's very well put together, like more in depth than someone direct might just come out with. And it like represents all of them. So it's more significant to them. So when I go through Mercury in each of the signs, I will explain how it would be expressed with the retrograde. Again, that's only about 20% of the population. And if you go to a site that you can get a free chart from, I use astro.com. If you see, so Mercury it looks like Venus, but it's got this little like thing over the top. And if you see where the letters R, X next to your Mercury, that means you have Mercury retrograde. So you should pay particular attention to those parts of the video, because that's more representative of you. So, and also when Mercury goes retrograde, if you like look at whatever sign it's in, like during the year, you can kind of get a better idea of how you will be able to handle it, because Mercury retrograde is like, if you try just the transits, like not if it's in your birth chart, but during the times of year, if you try really hard to like reorganize and like do what you normally would do, you're gonna keep failing and falling all over yourself. It's like trying to walk through quicksand. Like you're not going to get anywhere. Like you have to think differently, and it's a time to let your mind sort of relax and like unwind and just like go with the flow. So think about that next time you hear that Mercury is retrograde. Just be like, okay, it's all good. I'm just going to like let things happen and just go with the flow. If you have natal Mercury retrograde, if you're one of the about 20% of the population, you actually do better during Mercury retrograde periods than people with Mercury direct. So while everybody else around you is like, I'm losing things, I forgot this appointment, my bills got lost in the mail, you're going to be like, oh, I'm having like the best